We are recording.
Great. Okay. Well, thanks for those of you who are here. We are recording this, so we do anticipate that it will be available to everybody who would like to see it. We'll advertise that. We've got a time slot here until 11 o'clock, so we've got some pretty good time to get through our initial presentation and then what we're calling a panel discussion, or basically Q&A. So Sue, you want to start sharing the PowerPoint?
All right, you should be, oh, hold on, might be the wrong.
Yeah, nice. No, that was good.
Okay, second guessing myself there. All right, you can see everything?
Yeah, looks great. Great, thanks. Well, let's just go back to that one for a minute there. I just think it's an awesome photo. It's of a waste audit and waste sort, and I see some familiar faces there. One holding up the bag who is joining us. Shen, I see Shen. But let me use this as an opportunity to talk about the team, broadly speaking. But first, let me just say Happy Earth Week to everybody. And I want to particularly congratulate and thank our students at the college for the unbelievable effort that goes into Earth Week planning every year. It was just really unfortunate last year we weren't able to do Earth Week the way we normally do. And again, through the student leadership, we've been able to at least get some kind of a hybrid version of it going on this week. I can look out my window here and see stuff going on at the quad. And I saw that yesterday. I just really think that's exciting. And it's a harbinger for what I know is to come when we get back to normal, whatever that is. But again, thanks to the students. I also just want to give a shout out to the sustainability team. And we really have a broad group of people that are involved in sustainability at the college. We have a sustainability division or office that I lead, but it's way beyond that. And I think that's what makes sustainability really work at ESF. It's a combination of staff and I want to just really be clear, all staff. So some of the staff that report to Sue Fassler, who I'll introduce in a second, includes our custodial unit, our grounds unit, and these are the people that really make sustainability work, and Sue will be talking about that. It's our students. I just alluded to that. Students help drive sustainability initiatives, help create creative ideas around sustainability and play a very important role. And our part of the team, we have routine meetings with some of the student leaders, and we'll be talking about that. And it's our faculty. Our faculty are involved in so many ways, not only in leadership capacities, but also helping to advise the staff teams. For instance, in our energy area is one that we really relied on our faculty and continue to do so moving forward. And that's just one example. There are many examples, but it's also external partners. We bring in a lot of external partners. You're going to hear some examples today of some external partners from the private sector that without them, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. But we also have what I call an external partner, but it's really internal, and it's Trailhead. I think we think of that as internal, but it's Morrisville. And without Morrisville, SUNY Morrisville and their efforts with Trailhead, and you will find out more about this, we wouldn't be where we are with some of our sustainable food, which we know we have more to do, and then our materials. I also want to thank our president, Joni Mahoney, who's been here since November. I am so fortunate as the Chief Sustainability Officer, and I'll introduce myself a little bit more in a minute, but as the Chief Sustainability Officer to have President Mahoney, who doesn't take any convincing to do what we need to do in sustainability. In fact, she also is driving a number of initiatives and is very creative herself. So we as a college are fortunate to have President Mahoney here since November. So again, I'm Mark Lichtenstein. I am the Chief Sustainability Officer, but I also play other roles. I'm Chief of Staff and I'm the Executive Operating Officer for the college. I think that's very important. And I have talked to other schools about this. It's important to have sustainability embedded at the highest levels of decision-making at the college. You can talk to other sustainability people where that is an issue and they're not able to get things done. So I know I took a little bit of extra time on that, but I think it's important to kind of give that overview. So let's jump into a couple more things that I want to just touch on. Next slide. I thought it'd be good to just show you some of the commitments that we've made as a college and memberships that we have. And this is not a comprehensive document. So I'm going to say right now, for anybody who sees this, I ask that if you see something missing, please let us know. There'll be contact information at the end of the PowerPoint. We want to get a comprehensive list of particularly our memberships, but let me just give you a glimpse about what I'm talking about here. These are what I would say are pretty substantial commitments that the college has made. You'll see we've long been a bicycle-friendly university. We're in the process of re-upping that certification. But since 2015, these are some of the efforts and initiatives. They're mostly national, international, some state, some regional. Pretty substantial, but we haven't just signed on to these things. In many of the cases, and you will hear some specific examples, we are active in helping to move forward on some of these. I don't plan on going through all of these, so you'll have a chance to see this when you have access to the recorded presentation. These are some of the memberships. This is where I know that we have to beef this up. So again, I'm asking you all, particularly our faculty. Our faculty have professional memberships in groups, and the key here is active. I just don't want to know what groups we have, a paid membership or dues. But those groups that we are active in, we've got leadership, we've got faculty and others and students too that are leaders of a variety of groups. So once you get a chance to actually look at this list in detail, very much want to get your input on what's missing. So let's just jump right into it. Sustainability updates. Here are just a few key actions you're going to hear more. Last year, we were very active, a number of us in this America's Zero Carbon Action Plan that was put together by the Sustainable Development Network. I just lost the name, but if you Google it, you'll find out. Sustainable Development Solutions Network, sorry. It was initially came out of Columbia University, but is associated with the United Nations. And they developed a very comprehensive zero carbon action plan to give to the next administration in the White House, which has been done. And there's been a series of meetings with the leadership in the White House to implement this. We led the Sustainable Materials Management chapter of that. We can provide a link to that for you. Okay, next is the electric vehicle charging infrastructure. You're hearing about this really for the first time in a public situation. Sue Fassler deserves a lot of credit for this. There's other people that were involved, but we are implementing, knock on wood, we believe this is happening. We're at the final stages of 8 dual port and 2 single port stations to be installed throughout the Syracuse campus during the summer. That's a big deal because that's going to lead into our goal to fully electrify our fleet. Now, when we say our fleet, we're talking about our sedans and vehicles that we make available to our faculty, staff, and some students when they're ready for replacement. So again, this is President Mahoney's goal is to electrify our fleet as we start to replace them. Our grounds crew transitioned a couple of years ago to electric handheld equipment at a variety of our stations, and we are in the middle of the new website at ESF, but we have already completely redesigned the sustainable web presence. The roadmap that we use, and we can make this available to you if you're interested to observe. We can create an observer status for each of you, but this is what I would call the industry standard of the roadmap for academic institutions. It's called STARS. It's our sustainability tracking and assessment rating system, and it's operated by the Association for the Advancement of Sustainability in Higher Education. We've been a member a long time. Very comprehensive tool. It's basically it's a third-party verified tool. When you complete the application, it's verified by the STARS group. But as you get higher, and you'll see this, we also have others that verify what we put here. It's extremely comprehensive. Let's give you a glimpse at how we're doing on this. Our goal has been for a few years to achieve the highest level, which is platinum, similar to the U.S. Green Building Council LEED, where it's platinum, gold, silver, and then they have basically a registered type category. The points, there's a number of different credits. The points to get to platinum is 85, that's the bar. Here's what we've done. 2008, we were the first pilot participant, so I give a lot of kudos to folks back then. And I always say this, we are basically standing on the shoulders of giants. We're building on the progress of previous administrations, staff, students, and faculty who have long at this institution been involved in promoting environmental stewardship and sustainability. But here you see the track record. Again, this is first time public. We are currently provisional at platinum, but you see we're barely above the bar at 0.5 points. This is an intensive review by the STARS group right now. We may or may not still stay at platinum. This isn't just about chasing points. It's about doing the right thing. So sure, we'll be disappointed if we don't hit platinum now, but that's not the most important thing. The most important thing is to do the right thing by sustainability, but we're close. STARS has a number of different credit categories. Again, I'm not going to list those here. If you're interested, again, we'll give you observer status. But here are some, and here's where we lead. Curriculum and research. Probably people are nodding their heads, yes, that's obvious for a school like ours. But I was reminded by Justin Heavey of our team, who you will hear from in a minute. As you get higher in the STARS rankings, when you look at our colleagues that are also high level in those rankings, such as our fellow New York State colleague, Cornell University, it's not uncommon to see very high scores in curriculum and research, basically the academic side. So we're not really an anomaly there, which is interesting because we're so focused on environmental issues here. But we do really well there. And then the other side of the coin is the operations side. But can we go back just a second? So there are some examples of some of the operational issues where we are leading. It doesn't mean we don't have a lot of work to do still, but that's where we're leading. Next. And then future focus areas where we feel we can do better. Doesn't mean we're doing bad. For instance, transportation is a good example. We've always been really great as far as bicycles. That's something we've led for a long time. But we are, in a way, a commuter campus for staff. So that's something for us to be concerned about. And when we get back to normal, transportation, particularly air transportation for researchers, is something that impacts our carbon footprint. So we have work to do in these areas. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to Josh Arnold. Josh is part of the sustainability team. He is our Director of Energy Management and Utilities. Josh?
Thanks, Mark. Next slide, please. Yep, we recently completed a clean energy master plan, and there's been many goals established in that clean energy master plan. And one of the goals was to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions by 2023 by 40% from the 2007 baseline. We have a suite of projects and sustainability initiatives that will allow us to meet and exceed that goal. Another goal that was established was a 20% reduction in energy use intensity in our facilities by 2025. We have a portfolio of projects that will help us reach and exceed this milestone. Some of them include thermal jacket insulation, LED retrofits, building envelope improvements, steam trap installation and annual surveys, and controls optimization at the Ranger School. Another goal is to purchase 100% of our grid electricity from renewable resources by the end of 2021. I'm currently working with NYPA and others to close that gap. We're awaiting pricing for a power purchase agreement. We've signed on to buy 120% of our grid electricity through a solar PPA through the SUNY Consortium, the large scale renewable energy project. The excess electricity will be sold as RECs, which will help offset our natural gas consumption. So if anyone's wondering why we went 120%, this won't begin until the end of 2022, and we'll be 100% by 2023. So we're looking to close that gap with NYPA or perhaps other power purchase agreement providers. Next slide, please. So far, we've reduced our greenhouse gas emissions by 25%. The CHP came online in 2016, and we've implemented many energy conservation measures that have contributed to that reduction. Energy use intensity coincides with greenhouse gas reduction. So we've achieved 11% from the 2011 baseline. And again, our goal is 20% by 2025. And currently 6% of our electricity from the grid is renewable. So next slide, please. So I wanted to present some key patterns and trends. As you can see, our greenhouse gas emissions trajectory is on the downward slide. We're looking to hit 40% reduction by 2023. We're doing quite well. As you can see, the energy use intensity coincides with the greenhouse gas emissions reductions. And our trajectory is set as identified in the Clean Energy Master Plan and the suite of projects that we have queued up. Next slide, please. So since we've really started a comprehensive energy program, we've reduced our annual utility costs by 50% from 2014. It's quite significant with the CHP coming online, taking us off of district steam and generating steam and electricity on site. Has saved a significant amount in our utility budget. Also, the implementation of many energy conservation measures, LEDs, controls, and many others have contributed to this reduction. You can see that our natural gas consumption has gone up as our CHP came online and our district steam has gone down. We have increased our scope 1 emissions and reduced our scope 2. And as we progress with other projects like the Illick CHP tie-in, the scope 1 emissions will go up and our scope 2 will go down. So look forward to that. Next slide, please. Here's some building level highlights. This is what the ECDC has been doing over the past year, 5 years. Moon Library has had a 47% reduction in energy use intensity. This has contributed, what contributed to that was controls retro commissioning, LED retrofits throughout the whole facility, and some building envelope improvements. It's made a significant impact to Moon Library's EUI. Illick Hall, as you can see, the EUI has been reduced by 33%. What contributed to that reduction is airflow reductions, nighttime setbacks, new air handler projects, and constant commissioning and monitoring based commissioning of that facility. We'll transition to Jan Labs. As you can see, we're on a good trajectory with EUI reduction. However, in the last year, we've identified a control issue. The controls have surpassed their useful life, and they're now in a failed state, and we're keeping our facilities safe. So the energy use intensity has gone up. I'm currently working with facilities design and construction to completely retrofit the controls and to optimize them. So we're looking to drastically improve Jan Labs. So next slide, please. Here's an example of Moon Library before and after the ECDC did recommissioning and LED retrofits. It's quite significant. This is what a 47% EUI reduction looks like in Lucid Building OS and our heat maps. It's pretty significant. As you can see, in February, systems were running through the night and operators didn't know, wasting energy. Things were running at 100% during the daytime. Control staff recommissioned and went to the original sequence of operations and brought it back to design intent. And as you can see to the right, energy consumption has drastically improved. Next slide, please. Same goes for Illick. 2017 to 2020, before COVID-19, the steam consumption was pretty significant. We've done airflow reductions, nighttime setbacks, steam trap surveys, and facilities design and construction implemented a new air handler project that was just recently recommissioned that contributed to significant steam savings. So, next slide, please. Some of the key programs and actions that I'm working on are campus-wide water bottle filling stations. I'm working with facilities design and construction and a minor critical maintenance capital project to get them implemented. It covers Baker Labs, the Gateway Center, second floor, all of Illick Hall, Bray Hall, and Walters. So that's a work in progress. I'm currently working with New York Power Authority to finance a suite of significant energy conservation measures and energy projects that include a complete rehab of Beyond Chiller. It's called an R-Newell and optimization project that's going to renew a deferred capital asset and integrate Jan Labs into Baker Labs with chill water to give us redundancy and resiliency. It's going to be a great project. I'm also looking to tie in Illick Hall into our combined heat and power plant. 50% of Illicoll is still on N-Wave district steam. It's very costly and carbon intensive. And we've done such a great job on campus of energy reduction. I feel comfortable with putting the rest of Illicoll in our combined heat and power plant. And those savings will help leverage these other projects with NYPA financing. Another set of projects I'm working with NYPA on is retrofitting LEDs, HID lighting to LED on our campus. All of our exterior lights will be retrofitted. The Illick greenhouses will be retrofitted to LED. I'm working with Terry Edgar to make that happen. And Walters Hall will be getting new LEDs. So another project that I'm working on is electrification of Cranberry Lake Biological Field Station. We're looking at air to water heat pumps for domestic hot water. We're also looking to upgrade the service to Cranberry Lake Biological Field Station, looking at photovoltaic solar array that'll be grid tied and net metered. And we're also looking at the fleet of vehicles out there to electrify, get them off of fossil fuels, gasoline, diesel, and transition to electric. And I'll be working with my colleague, Justin Heavey, to do so, as well as facilities design and construction and consultants. And the last program was the Clean Energy Master Plan that was recently completed. I worked with many key stakeholders on campus to finalize this. It started off with a NASHRI Level 2 energy audit that gave us a list of energy conservation measures, and there was a lot of charrettes with key stakeholders to make this plan happen. And with that being said, I'm going to turn it back to Mark, and he'll introduce Justin Heavey, my colleague.
Great, thank you very much, Josh. And as our team knows, I said I would interject maybe at the end here. There's a couple of things I want to reinforce before I turn it over to Justin. First, I think it's obvious. Energy has been our focus over the last couple of years. It's not the only thing that we've been doing, but it has been a purposeful focus. And you see the results of what we've done there. And I want to give Josh and his entire team kudos, but also it's a full integrated effort, including, very important, our facilities planning, design, and construction group, who's been very much engaged in this. So a couple of things that Josh said, start there at the Cranberry Lake Biological Field Station. When he says electrify the fleet, we're talking about the boats as well. So we're looking at electric boat options for Cranberry Lake, which would be pretty cool. A couple of other things, just quick. CHP, some of you might not be familiar with what that is. That's our combined heat and power plant. It's in the basement of Gateway. Anybody who is interested, we can set up tours. Very unique facility. District steam. We purchased the majority of our steam from Syracuse University. Josh just mentioned N-Wave. It's now N-Wave. Our goal is to reduce that as much as possible because it's fossil fuel. NYPA, I'm glad Josh focused on that. Again, New York Power Authority. This is really unique on this slide, this new financing. I give Josh a lot of credit for first time ever really unique financing of energy products, projects. And then he mentioned RECs, renewable energy certificates. So the idea is if we do anticipate that we would be going net carbon negative, which Justin will talk about, then we would have the ability to sell certificates. Josh, I think you said we have 60% renewables. I think it's 6%. I might have misheard you there, but just to be clear, 6% of our sources are coming from renewables. And we have some work. We have some work to do there. EUI was mentioned a couple of times as energy use intensity. That's what's really important. Josh briefly mentioned Lucid. We made this decision a couple of years ago to invest in Lucid, which is an energy management system that allows us to have those awesome graphs he just showed on those buildings. That was a huge tool for us to get at some of these energy use intensities and then energy conservation measures. Setbacks, that's setting back temperatures. So that's also a basic thing, but wasn't really being done. So we now have that programmed in where we're turning down the thermostats. It's a huge issue. ECDC, that was modeled after Cornell University has a similar model. And that's the Energy Conservation Development and Controls Unit. It's a unit of people here on campus that are quick hit mechanics, maintenance folks, Josh, his team, to get out and deal with some of these energy hogs, some of the equipment that we have. And then last, LSRE, large scale renewable energy project. We were the first campus to sign on to this with SUNY. And this is a pretty cool project where large-scale renewable energy projects will be built around New York State in the next year, and we will be tapping into that, us and I think 12 other academic institutions to start out with. So I know I took a little time there, but I think this is a really important area that we focused a lot on, and I appreciate the effort Josh and others have done on it. With that, I want to turn to, could I ask people to mute their mics if they're not speaking, because we're getting a little bit of feedback. I want to turn to Justin Heavey. Justin is our Sustainability and Research Programs Manager. Again, going to talk a little bit more about some of the things I just mentioned, some of the energy issues. Justin?
Thank you, Mark, and thank you also, Josh. And I want to reiterate Mark's thanks to you and your team for all of your work and attention to all these many types of projects. You gave a great sampling of what you're doing right now, and I just like to emphasize that all these things are ongoing. And as Mark was saying, we've addressed many challenges from the ground up that have saved a lot of energy for the college, and that is fully credit to Josh and his excellent team of technicians and other folks. And then, so if we go to next slide, right? And so at the beginning of the presentation, Mark was mentioning the many drivers, mandates, commitments that the colleges have. Many of these are related to energy and greenhouse gas emissions, and many of them are very aggressive by any standard. Specifically, Executive Order 166 and the CLCPA, Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, are calling for 80% or more greenhouse gas reductions. So tremendous, bold actions. And each of these projects that Josh and his team are constantly undertaking are moving us closer to these goals. Another thing that is helping is funding and other opportunities coming out of some of these programs. So NYSERDA has a program called the REV Campus Challenge that is helping colleges and universities to meet these aggressive goals and to lead the way. NYSERDA provided funding to SUNY ESF to complete a clean energy master plan. This is funding that is available to any campus who is a REV Campus Challenge member, and the criteria to become a member is not stringent, so it's something I would encourage every campus to do. It opens the door to lots of opportunity and funding mechanisms. So we had the opportunity to work with Ramboll, which is now an international environmental engineering firm with an office in Syracuse. It was a great opportunity to be able to work with them, and they were actually working on clean energy master plans for SUNY Oneonta and a number of other colleges at the same time that we were working with them on ours. So it was a great opportunity, and they have a ton of experience. And I also would like to throw in a little plug here before I forget. The Clean Energy Master Plan process was documented by filmmakers here at ESF, and that video documenting the whole process using ESF as a case study is now available on the ESF YouTube page. So please check that out. And then if we go to the next slide, what the Clean Energy Master Plan process allowed us to do is begin to look at the campus as a whole. We first did this originally in about 2009 with our first climate action plan, but take a very high level view of the campus fuel use, fossil fuel use, and related greenhouse gas emissions. So Josh mentioned purchased electricity. This is a large piece of the puzzle that we hope to address through power purchase agreements of renewable energy. And then the other main part that Mark mentioned briefly is our reliance on natural gas for heating on the Syracuse campus, as well as purchased steam, which is also natural gas fired. So a large portion of our remaining carbon footprint, fossil fuel use, is related to this issue of how do we start to reduce these things, and it's going to need to be a substantial reduction if we hope to achieve, again, very aggressive goals of reducing our carbon footprint by, upwards of 50%, potentially 80% or more. So if we go to the next slide, the objectives of a clean energy master plan in most cases fall into these types of buckets: energy efficiency, renewables, resiliency. So these are somewhat standard in most energy master plans. I would point special attention to the last box here, integrating with other campus plans, and particularly those plans related to facilities and strategic initiatives. We were lucky at ESF to be conducting the Clean Energy Master Plan at the same time that there was a facilities master plan ongoing, and had the director of facilities on our Clean Energy Master Plan. So we had the opportunity to do a lot of discussions with that team, and critical to be on the same page with these folks, but also critical in the sense that when we talk about long-term transitions and transitions of the campus to a low carbon future, it really needs to be integrated with renovations and certainly new construction, if there's any of that happening. So next slide, please. So throughout this process, this is just a very high level view. There's many specifics and details behind this type of analysis, but essentially there was many different scenarios modeled of how do we go from the current scenario of steam distribution networks, fossil fuel-based systems, mixed grid fossil fuel use, to a vision of a low carbon campus. And really to get there, we have to kind of be sort of visionary, because to get from point A to point B, it's going to be a transition, and the campus is going to look substantially different on the other side of things. So then next slide, please. If we start to, again, put some numbers to those buckets and those main categories of what a transition would look like, again, the main chunk of it falls out into what we're calling in this slide resiliency. And we see that really as the ability to meet our thermal heating needs in a fashion that is low carbon, low fossil fuel, and also has some flexibility in the use of technologies that can plug into the system. Trends in what technology is available, what technology is most cost effective, what technology is being incentivized, changed. So we really need to have flexibility in these systems, and we really need all of these systems. We can't solely rely on electrification, geothermal, or biomass. We need all these solutions to really reach these goals. And the same goes for all of these categories. We can't simply focus on resiliency and slack off on renewable energy. All these pieces are needed to reach our goals. Next slide, please. Right, and so wrapping up, again, going back to this GHG trend that Josh showed, we started out looking at these issues and trying to make progress around 2007, 2008, and have achieved approximately a 25% greenhouse gas reduction since then. With these short-term efforts such as energy efficiency and renewables, we are on track to achieve a 40% reduction over the short term in the next few years or so, and then have multiple options and pathways how we can start to get to those longer term, deep decarbonization. And those also go hand in hand with energy use, EUI reductions, and total energy use reductions. One last note on the college's carbon footprint. So here we're simply looking at actual GHG emissions from primarily stationary combustion and fossil fuels. We also are focused on the scope 3 emissions. So things like college sponsored air travel, streams of GHGs from waste products and other things. And then as most people are aware, the college is actively managing over 25,000 acres of college forest properties. ESF researchers are developing more advanced techniques to monitor carbon stocks in those forests, and also the fluxes of carbon in those forests over time on ESF property, and then also on a statewide basis. And we know for certain that these forests are sequestering at least 4 times the amount of GHG emissions that we are emitting on an annual basis, as well as providing a whole range of ecosystem services and sustainable products. And so we are closely focused on the emissions side, but also taking a comprehensive approach to this. And so I think that concludes my section, and I guess I'll kick it back to Mark to turn it over to Stu, who is going to talk about zero waste.
Great, thank you very much, Justin. And we'll save a couple things to the panel discussion, but just want to highlight getting off of natural gas. That is a major goal of ours, and it's not easy. So a lot of the strategies we talked about are those that we're looking at. We're looking at a lot of unique technologies such as ground source heat pumps, and a whole bunch of things. The importance is that we have an energy master plan, and we're one of the first institutions in the state to have that. So again, kudos to everybody involved. It now gives us the very specific roadmap aligned with our facilities master plan that Justin referenced to get us to that place. So again, great job by everybody. So with that, I'm gonna kind of reintroduce Sue because I've referenced her a couple of times. Sue Fassler is our Sustainable Facilities Manager, and she's going to talk about the area that's near and dear to my personal heart, waste. It's an area that I spent a lot of time in my career. So we've done an awful lot of work in this the last couple of years. And again, Sue, her team, her custodians, many others are really deserve big kudos as students. So Sue, without stealing any more of your thunder, I'm going to turn it right over to you.
Thank you. And I recognize a few people on this call because they have been heavily involved, and they could probably give this portion of the presentation themselves. So, and that really attests to what Mark says. This is a community effort. So even if you've heard me talk about waste before, maybe you do not know what our goals and progress towards achieving those goals are. So our first goal is a very typical zero waste goal that many institutions have. And they typically define diversion from landfill and incineration at a 90% level as achieving zero waste. So this means that ESF hopes by 2025 to either recycle or compost 90% of the materials that we're sending away from campus. We also have a second goal, which I would argue is a little bit more important than even the first goal, because what we're trying to do here is really reduce away as much material that we're sending to landfill or incinerators as possible. So we have a goal of reducing what we do send to landfill and incineration by 90% by 2025 as well. So this is it's looking much deeper than just recycling and composting. It's looking at what we're bringing onto campus and how we are managing it. So progress. So I was hired in 2019, and at that time, student classes and student clubs did waste audits. And we also switched to a hauler that was able to better weigh and track what we were sending to landfill and what we were recycling. So we found that our diversion rate, which if you remember, our goal is 90%. Our diversion rate in 2019 was only 34%. So since we instituted a number of changes around campus, including standardizing our bins and adding campus-wide composting, our diversion rate has increased to 48%. So we're a little bit more than halfway towards achieving our goal in a span of 2 years. And we also have decreased our trash weight by 34%. So we want to get to 90%. That is a lofty goal, but we are making steady progress towards achieving this. So a few key programs and actions that have occurred in the last year. So a lot of students, including Shaniqua Perry, who's on this call, helped to plan the Beyond Waste Student Summit, which was put on by the Post Landfill Action Network. It was held right before the pandemic. So this generated a lot of energy and excitement. We invited students from the Northeast region to really come and dig into how to build capacity and advocacy at their own campuses to help spread this word. And at this summit, we were the first New York State college to sign the Post Landfill Action Network's Break Free from Plastic Pledge. So this is a suite of plastics that are single use and not perhaps necessary for colleges functioning that we hope to shift away from, with an eye towards remembering that we still want to be conscious of people of all abilities, and we would never want to reduce away plastic that would cause a real hardship and harm for someone else who might need it. So something like a disposable straw. So we are always keeping environmental justice and accessibility and equity in mind as we are trying to make this sweeping systemic change. So as part of this pledge, we formed the Break Free from Plastics Committee. This is a group of about 20 to 22 students, faculty, and staff who, once the pandemic, I don't want to say settled a little bit because it's still very much part of our life, but once we're getting used to this new normal a little bit, we did start picking up with our meetings, and we have one next week. And we're going to really dig through this list that the Post Landfill Action Network defines as being the single-use plastics that we want to avoid on campus. And this group, so Shaniqua and Caitlin and I just did a lab walkthrough, for instance. So we're kind of now taking a really laser focused eye at walking through spaces on campus that produce a lot of single-use plastic. So places like labs, the Trailhead Cafe, and shipping and receiving. We also got a grant from the New York State Association for Reduction, Reuse, and Recycling to offer 200 free reusable menstrual cups, 234 free reusable menstrual cups to the ESF community. And we have distributed 200 of them, which I think is a huge testament to the energy behind this project. Even in a pandemic world where people are scattered throughout the country, this has still seen a tremendous success. And the program got a second life because students like Shaniqua and Emily Lee and Angelica Gonzalez and Sachi Sagan, Sustainability Team through USA, GCI, and the Baobab Society just offered a period kit program that helped to build on this. So they also offered students reusable pads and heating pads as well. So this is about normalizing conversations on campus that we otherwise might not feel comfortable having, and also pairing it with financial and waste accessibility. So this is a really important point. Like Mark mentioned in the beginning, the Trailhead Cafe is part of ESF, but still distinct from ESF. And many institutions, in the spurts of really not knowing what the fall semester would look like, or even the end of the spring semester, a lot of places just made a snap decision to not have any dine-in options and to go everything carry out from their dining halls and cafes. So the Trailhead Cafe at first thought that that's what they might have to do, but they were so willing to work with us to still offer dining in a safe way. So that is a way that we are showing that we're integrating sustainability within our operation so much at a college that it's still top of mind, even in the midst of a crisis. And a big reason we made this decision was because we knew if we went all disposable, even though it's compostable, it's still a single-use product. Our students, rightfully so, would raise the red flag. Because I more and more see students that are coming to campus, they are so far ahead of where I was when I was coming in. They really have a deep passion for this zero and low waste movement. I see it as being much more than a fad, it's a movement, and they're really helping to push us forward. So now, as I mentioned, we're identifying recycling options for the really difficult to recycle items. So this is stuff like the pallet shrink wrap that our shipping and receiving comes in. It's tires. It's our construction and demolition debris, and it's gloves. So we've really achieved the low-hanging fruit. We've added composting, and we've gotten rid of some key plastics, like in the vending machines, you might notice that now they're all aluminum cans. So now it's really digging in and drilling down to these very specific areas of single-use plastic to try to find a way to either remove them from campus or manage them. And we cannot have a real discussion about sustainability at the college just talking about the Syracuse campus. So everyone that's spoken has also mentioned the regional campuses. So this is a really big push we have in this next year, is to also bring our zero waste programs to our regional campuses. We're going to be doing bin audits there, potentially purchasing new bins to standardize, helping with education and outreach. And more importantly, we're trying to identify haulers in each area that are able to give us weights, because we cannot report back to you all about the good work we're doing if we don't have the data to back it up. And we are also achieving some sustainability higher level advocacy. So the CLCPA, the state climate change plan that has been mentioned a few times, there is a waste advisory panel. So I have been on that. I'm not on it. To be clear, I wish I were, but I have been joining as a member of the public and offering some public comments. And I was also just asked to sit on the UUP Union Sustainability Roundtable this Thursday. So I'll give that a plug. It's at noon. And this is kind of a stretch for me. And that's something that I've kind of set as a personal goal this year, is to start trying to elevate the zero waste conversation at a higher level. Because if you look at SUNY's goals and the state's goals, rightfully so, we're talking about climate change and greenhouse gas reductions due to energy, renewable energy and transportation. And that is so valid and so needed, but we can't have this larger conversation about climate change without talking about materials and waste and extraction and consumption, because that is a huge component of our greenhouse gas picture. So if we want to combat climate change, we're going to have to start kind of raising the ruckus at higher levels to get zero waste integrated into these plans. So some key things, this is my last slide besides some fun pictures I have. We will be updating the College's Sustainability Action Plan, and we can talk a little bit more about that at the panel, so I don't want to steal that thunder. And of course, I'm very excited. We're going to be developing the college's first zero waste action plan. So people send me ideas all the time, which I love. I've been keeping track of them, and they will be included in the zero waste plan. And both of these will include really robust community engagement for the remainder of this calendar year. And we also just reapplied for a grant to launch a reusable to-go container program at the Trailhead Cafe. This is something that students have said that they really would love to see. Like everyone realizes compostables are great, but what's even better is reusable. And more college campuses are doing this. So we don't want to be left behind. We want to emulate and do better than other folks that are doing zero waste programs. And so we are also working with Centennial Hall to try to get composting up and running there by this fall. So to share some pictures, I have the absolute pleasure of getting to guest lecture in some classes and lead some waste audits and teach students how to do that. I do some deodorant making workshops at wellness days. This is Shaniqua, one of the student leaders you'll hear from in a little bit, doing some table talk to talk about what is compostable. The ubiquitous mini bin, which we shifted all office trash bins to. John Turbeville likes to make jokes, so we've got a mini bin here. And then this is just some education and outreach material. So I just want to close by saying the energy around zero waste on campus is phenomenal. I draw a lot of energy from the students, and I think it's what the students really want to see. So I will turn it back to Mark to introduce Kate.
Great, thanks so much, Sue. It's super exciting. Again, great congratulations to you and everybody involved. I want to highlight something, zero waste by 2025, basically 4 years. Some people might think we're unrealistic about that. We are adamant that we're going to get there, and you could hear that from the tone of Sue's presentation. I've been involved in the zero waste movement since the 1990s. Again, it's an aspirational goal to achieve. We don't want it to just be aspirational. We want to get to 90%. There are not a lot of entities out there that have achieved it, but there are some. And there are some that are on great track, making progress towards that. And a lot of that is overseas. New Zealand is one of those areas. So we'll be looking at those model programs as we move forward and as we develop this plan that Sue just mentioned. On the last slide that she had, whether we get a grant or not, we are committed to doing the reusables at Trailhead. So that's going to happen either way. And Centennial has been very helpful. We're setting up meetings with them to talk about a number of different programs beyond just composting. So again, to bring both the campus, Centennial, and the remote properties, all of that in alignment is key. So this is a good segue into one of the, I think, recognitions of our work in this area and the reputation of ESF is that we were awarded a major grant. Again, I'm not going to give you the details. I don't want to steal the thunder from our next presenter. But to create the center that you see in front of you, the New York State Center for Sustainable Materials Management, really the first of its kind in the country. When I say that, I mean the first of its kind. This is an entity that is funded by the state of New York at an academic institution, and it goes beyond just simply recycling. You'll find similar entities around the country that focus on some recycling and recycling market development. So we're super excited about this. And I want to introduce, for one of the first times in public, not the first time, because she's been very active and out there, Kate Walker, who is actually directing this new center. So we wanted Kate to just give you a little flavor of what's happening there. So Kate.
Great. Thank you so much. And thanks for having me today. It's nice to meet some of the students virtually. Happy Earth Week to all of you. I see Grace is on here. I have met her virtually, but it's really a pleasure, and to hear all of the incredible work that's being done at ESF. I just started March 1, but what's clear is that you may be a small university, but certainly mighty. And as seen in this presentation, there's so much to be excited about. So particularly Sue and all of the work that is being done on campus with zero waste, certainly we want to emulate that and do better. I love what you said there. And certainly, as Mark said, this New York State Center for Sustainable Materials Management was just a huge opportunity for ESF to move not only obviously the university out front and center, but certainly drive the state. And as Sue said, personally trying to talk about zero waste with policy and within the climate discussion, we want to make sure that we can support the state and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation with the work that they're trying to do. So as you see on the slide ahead of, or in front of you, this grant was announced in the middle of what was a terrible and tough year for many of us, but was really good news, and funded this center for 5 years with the possibility of another 5-year extension. And we have models like this and funding that the state has provided to other universities, and recognize that this is really a long-term relationship that we are building with DEC. Mark, of course, has had interactions and has worked with the center or with the department for many years, but it really solidified that they saw ESF in a position to promote and accelerate sustainable materials management, really as the primary choice for discarded materials across New York State. So while the reason that we were awarded this was and as Mark said, the focus was primarily on improving the recycling market and the recycling and addressing the challenges that we all knew were coming, but really came to head in 2018. While the focus of that and on the grant is to improve the markets for recycling and the outreach and education around that, we really are looking at this hierarchy. As many of you see the triangle in front of you, we want to focus on and include source reduction and reuse. So that is center to everything that we'll be working on. So as you see on the slide, $5.75 million with a possibility to extend and expand that. And also to note that we weren't the only ones that the state funded. The state has provided significant investments to the University of Buffalo, Alfred University, and SUNY Stony Brook. And we actually are in contract with SU. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But they funded all of these organizations to do some pieces of this sustainable materials research and outreach, and we will be really the front-facing organization, leveraging those resources and making sure that those organizations are communicating with each other. So it was really a terrific opportunity. So the center is working on 6 principal areas, and you can, there you go, thank you. You can see in front of you, as I have mentioned, really looking at that top of the hierarchy with waste prevention and product stewardship. I know many of you on this call already know what EPR is, and looking at policies so that we can really reduce waste before it occurs. And EPR is a policy that has been used in New York State, and we continue to and will provide support as the state moves forward with potential packaging and paper EPR legislation. We're looking at purchasing on a statewide level. So all of the great experiences that we've had here at ESF in looking at purchasing and elevating this conversation will be great experience as we look at the state and SUNY systems and looking at how we can improve the purchasing at the statewide level and have a huge impact. And of course, we need to build the markets for recyclables. So that third piece will really look at how do we support entrepreneurship and folks that have incredible solutions and expand them in New York State. And all of these 3 pieces are really going to rely first on researching top-notch programs across the state. So the first step, of course, will be looking at best practices and doing that research. The fourth part is going to be community outreach. And again, back to the recycling piece, I'll show on my next slide, but that really educating the consumer about what is recyclable. It's very confusing, but not just sticking to the recycling piece, but how do we do education across the board and standardize and promote materials that are exciting and up to date. And we are lucky to have the partnership with SU, so with the Community for Sustainability Solutions. We work very closely with them and have contracted with them on this piece. And then the last 2 items that we're focused on under the center are really focused on research here that is happening at ESF that was happening already. And Grace's was involved in one of these pieces, which is the composting piece. So looking at composting for items, fibrous materials that are non-recyclable, which is under Doug Daly here at ESF. And finally, looking at researching conversion options for non-recyclable fibrous materials. And that is led by Dr. Bandaru Ramaru. And for those last 2 items, and actually all of the items we do have, and we can pop it in the chat afterwards. I have been doing a little bit of public speaking on the ESF Connected channel and interviewing some of our partners. So you can learn more about those efforts if you want. We filmed an episode yesterday, and we'll film another one next week. So please check those out. Next slide. So exciting news for Earth Day. As I mentioned, outreach and education is a huge piece of what we're doing at the center, and Recycle Right New York is about to be launched, which is our public facing program for increasing recycling across New York State. And as I mentioned, this is a collaboration with Syracuse University, and really came about, Recycle Right came about and was launched after a group of 2018 stakeholder meetings across New York State, which DEC led. And this website, which we're about to launch, Earth Day, was a result of over 100 stakeholders that came together, recycling professionals, folks from private industry, and they truly created this campaign, which is really exciting, and really is about shifting the message from when in doubt, throw it out, to know before you throw. So really trying to shift that message. The website, like I said, will be launched on Earth Day. And we're really excited. As you can see, our president, Joni Mahoney, gave us a little plug video, Recycle Right New York plug video, which will be on all of our social media on Earth Day. And we're really excited to have her support in this effort. So once this website goes public, we will have incredible amount of public outreach materials. And while it will certainly support the general consumer and the average New Yorker, it really will support local recycling coordinators that we know lack funding and often don't have the time and energy to put together materials in their local area. So our hope is to really localize and add, we'll continue to add more detail around recycling to increase participation and obviously to decrease confusion around the guidelines. The site is going to be super interactive, and again, like I said, localize those tools, and constantly we will be updating the materials on there. So it's Recycle Right New York. The website is right up there at the top. You can find it on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter as well. And like I said, it'll be launched on the 22nd. So really, really excited for this launch. And again, I'm so happy to be part of the center and part of Team SUNY ESF. And I will hit it back over to Mark, and I'm happy to take questions in our open round here.
Great, thank you so much, Kate. Awesome. So again, thanks for Sue and Kate dovetailing together on these items. And I want to talk about briefly some things you heard in both those presentations. The key to zero waste, the key to the 90% goal is source reduction. Can't reinforce that enough. We call it an upstream solution. We call recycling, composting, landfilling, wasting, incineration, downstream solutions. So waste prevention is key. ESF can play a role in that. Has a lot to do with new materials design for the environment, packaging materials designed for the environment. And you saw that Activity 5 led by Dr. Romario was one of those areas that we're doing that. And we've had faculty and students in this area for a long time. And we also want to, again, give a shout out to both Dr. Ram and Doug Daly for their work. They're both PIs on this center, and Doug's work in composting is key. So product stewardship is going to be important, and what role ESF can play to influence product stewardship moving forward. I think there's going to be a lot of interesting things there. All right, so what would you like to see in a sustainability action plan, zero waste plan? We really want your input. There's the email that I referenced earlier. Please send us your ideas. And with that, I wanted to just end with a highlight on social equity and social justice. If you saw on one of my first slides, there was the area of diversity and affordability was one of the areas that we are strong in. But we have so much more to work to do there. Some of you are students and faculty of sustainability. Those of you who are know that sustainability, very in a general sense, is a three-legged stool. We focus, I believe we tend to focus on the environmental stewardship, the environmental sustainability leg of the three-legged stool. It's understandable with a school like ours. There's the economic leg, economic development, sustainable economic development, but there's the social equity piece. And I want to be sure that you know that our team takes that extremely seriously, and we're working hand in hand with the Office of Inclusion, Diversity, and Equity. Sue talked about a couple of programs that we're working on with them. But there's so much more that we need to do in the area of environmental justice and the broader area of social equity. So we want ideas on that as well, is what I'm saying. So it's really important for people to understand that we take that seriously. So with that, I do want to ask, we are fortunate to have Shaniqua Shen Perry with us. Shen is the Director of Sustainability Team for the Undergraduate Student Association. I don't know if she's still with us. Yes, she is. She's right there. So Shen, I would just want to ask you if there's anything that you would like to add to what you've heard so far.
Not a whole lot, but us as the sustainability team, we have some upcoming projects going on. We are going to be taking over the move out program for students. So in the past, that has been run by a single individual passing it down person to person. So after this round this spring, it'll be moved to a sustainability run program. We usually fund it anyway, so we'll just be taking control over that. As Sue mentioned, we had the period kit program this semester. Huge hit. We had like 200 responses, which was great. Way more than we expected. So that was great. And I am graduating in the fall, so we will be having a new director of sustainability. And currently that is going to be Lauren Jones. So that'll be exciting transition to her.
Great, thank you very much, Shen. And you have been an awesome partner, and I'm going to do what I can to make sure that maybe you don't have enough credits to graduate, so we'll keep you on here longer. Just kidding. But I understand Lauren's awesome too, so we look forward to the transition and working with both of you. And I know they're not on the call, but I want to give a shout out to Sachi Sagan, who is president of the Green Campus Initiative, GCI, and Jess Proctor, who is vice president of GCI. Both have been very active with our routine meetings and doing some great programming as well. So a quick shout out to them. They're members of our team as well. We also have two other people that weren't able to join us today. I want to make sure you are aware of. Gary Peden, who is our director of facilities, is on our team. We have weekly meetings, and he's been instrumental. And so has Alex Poisson, who is a PhD candidate here. Alex is responsible for so much of what we're doing, and we give a quick shout out to them as well. So with that, I know we don't have a lot of people. That's okay. Again, this is being recorded, so I do look forward to promoting it widely. But for those of you who are on, anybody have any questions or anything that they'd like to add, or for that matter, the people who have given presentations, anything you can think of that you forgot to mention? Just going to open up, and if you would use your hands up function, I'll call on you. Laura made a comment earlier, thanking you for your passion there, Sue. But Sue, I see your hand up.
Yes, so before Celia had to jump, she sent me a private message on Zoom and was asking about if we could have a further discussion about how we hope to further integrate sustainable food options and choices on campus.
Yeah, we did go over that really quick. We didn't dive in deeply on some of those, but I think in those first few slides, I think food was listed, right? Sue was one of the areas of. Let me just take a look real quick. But yeah, so I think we do need, we had a food group at one point that involved some faculty and students and so on. But Sue, you want to talk a little bit more about your engagements with Trailhead? I know Justin, I'd like you to talk a little bit too, just briefly about that and about the garden. But Sue, let's start with you.
Sure. So in working with James, the Trailhead manager, I've just been so impressed with how willing he is to push the boundaries of what a typical food cafe organization would be at a campus that's environmentally focused. We would not be where we are with materials management and compostable items without James. And I'm sure if we bring the desire to him that more people want to have environmentally friendly options, like he's already integrated some days of the week where it's meatless. There's always vegetarian and vegan options on every single menu every day. I have heard from people that they would like to see, I believe there's been venison on the menu before. I haven't seen it myself, so I'd have to fact check it, but people love that. The idea of more kind of the earthy, connected to the land type of meat. So if there's a way to have meat, but make it sustainable, that's the way to go. So I agree. I think we as a campus need to elevate this discussion and push it forward, but I feel very confident that James will do all he can to be present at those discussions and be very willing to try to increase the amount of sustainable food that we have.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Justin, you want to add anything?
Sure. We did have a food working group for at least a semester or two, and one of the main things coming out of that from stakeholders in that group was the desire for more vegan vegetarian options. James was in that group, and so it is a balance of what sells and what keeps the operation afloat. But he certainly tries to provide as much as he can and keep the operation running smoothly. Similar to what Sue mentioned, there's a desire for holistic local options. That is something that we are pursuing separately. So within the STARS framework, there's sustainable dining criteria. And one of the main areas that we can improve is by tracking helping Morrisville to track their purchases and purchasing a higher percentage of plant-based products, and then any product that has either an ethical or sustainable certification, and increasing the percentages of the food purchases that have one of those two distinctions. And then Mark also mentioned the garden, and so we do have a student-run garden at the Lafayette Road experiment station, 4 miles from the main campus, that produces some amount of food that generally students take home. But we've had discussions about the food pantry, or also similar things, special menu items. We actually have done, there's a Three Sisters garden run by the Center for Native and Peoples and Environment. And there has been related trailhead menu programming for International Week, Native harvest traditions in the fall. And so there's opportunities along those lines as well.
Great, thanks. Thank you for asking that, Sue. Yeah, so Sue's going to send the PowerPoint out. And Laura, did you see what Laura said there in the chat? Justin, there, she has a beautiful garden, Pete's garden. That we can also
Yes, I think it's relatively new, I believe. And I've talked with Meg Lowe, sustainability coordinator over there, about doing like a garden exchange where we go check out theirs. They come and see ours and share ideas and opportunities.
Okay, great. Anything else anybody'd like to share or add or ask?
I know we mentioned a lot of folks that deserve credit, and I think if you go back to this, this recent STARS undertaking that we just did, that's another great example. I mean, we literally, just from this one STARS assessment, have a list of literally 75 people to thank, and it's been that way since the beginning that we start. And if you add it up over the years, it's literally hundreds of faculty, staff, and students that contribute to this. So I see our role as coordinating these things, but so many people from across campus make such critical contributions that we could never name them all. We try to give due credit, but it is, it's for all of us and by all of us, all these things that we do. And so thank you to everybody out there that happens to see this or has contributed over the years.
Yeah, thank you for reminding us of that. So a couple of things related to that. I think if we give people observer status, if you're interested in that, you'll see the list of names sprinkled throughout our STAR submittal. But Sue, I think that would be worthwhile as a slide to add to a future rendition of this PowerPoint. If we can, maybe Justin and Sue and myself, we can get together to try to get those names down. I think it's important to put those in lights, if you will, and let people see who's been involved. So let's work on that.
Absolutely. We have the ongoing list. So that would be good to pull together.
Some of them are on this call, actually. Okay, we have an academic governance meeting starting in 2 minutes. I think some of us need to be on that. I would like to encourage those of you here to partake in the other Earth Week activities going on. And one of those is on Thursday, on Earth Day, we are going to have a proclamation by both the city and county at 10 o'clock in the morning. Right now it's planned for the Bray Rotunda. It might be moved to the Gateway Center, possibly 408 Baker, so stay tuned for that. But both the mayor and the county executive will be here and making remarks. President Mahoney will be making remarks, and we will have one of our students making remarks as well. So that's pretty cool. The proclamation basically says that Earth Day is ESF Day in Central New York, not just this year, but like forever, for always. So that's pretty cool. Okay, well, thanks everybody, and have a good rest of the day, and we'll talk to you soon.
Bye, everyone.
Earth Week.